I've been a late night player. I've been broke as a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger. Make my Jaeger just a little.
View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23, Danbury, Connecticut. And we are here on this April 25th.
Yes, where is
the time going? A whole month of April is almost gone. You know what that means, Bob?
Yeah, summer will be here with a full bang, right?
Yeah, but before we get to that, it's my birthday in a few days.
Is it? Well, happy birthday.
April 30th, next week.
Yeah,
we don't need to talk about whatever that is. But, yes, my birthday creeping up fast, which means April's almost come and gone. But we are here live, 6 to 6:30. We were off the last couple of weeks, and what a difference a couple of weeks makes. Holy cow, a lot of different things go down in the sports world and in the real world that infiltrated the sports world. So we got plenty to catch up on. Let's officially say hello to Mr. Bob Rowe Jr.
How are you, Scott?
I'm doing good there, Bob. Happy to be back in studio.
Yeah.
How's things been for you?
Pretty well, so. Dad's been having some issues, but we're still, still banging through.
Plugging along?
Yeah.
You're getting back comfortable in the house?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. And Spotlight on, I'm sure you've been airing plenty of the still basking in the glory of the Whalers winning the FHL Cup.
We had that on quite a few times.
And getting plenty of viewers. I know people have been jumping on the YouTube stuff we put up there of that. So Bob's show, Spotlight on, Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays afternoon, re-airs at 12. And, of course, in studio, running the show, Mr. Mike Toohey. Expose Cinema, his show, Friday nights at 10 and Wednesdays at 1. Some of the other people behind the scenes here. Let's mention Dave King, because I know he had a new song out, right?
Yes, he does.
Dave, one of the head honchos here, and you can go to davekingmusic.com to find all that, or search for him on YouTube. I think there was a music video involved with the most recent song release for Dave. So we'll give a little pop for that. So, yeah, Bob, plenty of things. When we left, we were on the verge of the Final Four.
And now the Final Four is come and gone. Yeah,
but let's touch base real quick. I mean, we went Final Four. That was a big event, men's and women. We had Frozen Four, all Connecticut final, Yale versus Quinnipiac. That was a big event. The Masters turned into a classic.
Yes.
And that all led up to us settling into some baseball. A little Marathon Monday, Patriots Day.
Which turned into a disaster.
And wow, what a disaster that was, as we get some terrorist activity up there in Boston. Really just a scary situation. People just, realizing that it's been 12 years or so since 9/11, but this stuff is still going on here in the United States. We don't deal with it as much, but remember there was something like this that almost took place a couple years ago in Times Square, but it was a faulty malfunction that saved the day there. So this stuff is out there and really just horrible. The timing of this, these two guys, they target the 4 o'clock hour, which is when most of the runners start coming in.
Yeah.
The elite athletes are already done with the race. And there we see Joe Andruzzi, former Patriot. And we remember here this photo of him and his brothers who were all Staten Island firemen, and they were there on 9/11 in New York City. And that was really a moving moment when they came back to play football that day, and he had his brothers with him. And he was there at the marathon doing like his brothers did, running right into the harm's way to help out. And you saw plenty of that going on with people, the first responders there, the police, the firemen, and civilians.
Yes.
Everybody just, there's of course panic and everybody's scared, but at the same time, there's just the positive that comes out of it where everybody just runs to help the situation. So it's unfortunate this is what we deal with, but we do deal with that. And, there was a lot of injured people, a few deaths, And the week played out in a crazy fashion.
Right.
They postponed and canceled some sporting events up there in Boston, and then they started getting back into it. It was the Bruins first with the hockey game there, and of course the national anthem. That was a moving moment as the singer there, Renee Rencourt, just backed out as he was singing, and it went full bore to the crowd. And of course the moving moments there that we see. And that was the first moment. And then on Friday, the whole manhunt goes down, and it's just craziness as everybody's just glued to their sets, glued to the news, just trying to figure out what's going to happen. Thankfully, they found the last of the 2 gunmen, and importantly, they were able to bring him in alive.
Right.
The first was killed in the evening, the initial shootout that took place the night before. And they were able to bring him in alive, but more games were canceled then. And then it was back to baseball and back to the Red Sox coming home. And they had quite a ceremony on Saturday. It was a beautiful day. They honored some of the police. They honored the victims. And, nice timing for Big Papi.
Yeah, Big Papi
David
comes
Ortiz,
back and,
his first game of the year. He's back in the lineup, and he gets to speak to the crowd. And he drops the smoothest F-bomb in the
anybody's ever
history
heard.
of television, in the history of all
Even
F-bombs.
they couldn't get the NCC, or whatever the
FCC, actually, they chimed in and said there will be no punishment to David Ortiz for his emotional outburst as he addressed the crowd there. It was a pretty great moment, really. And then he came through, and he was back, and he's actually played well since returning. He's batting .500 in the week since he's returned. He's got some RBIs coming up big for the team. And also on that day, how about this? Neil Diamond gets a red-eye flight from California, flies to Boston. At 12:30, he gets there, and he calls the PA box or whatever at Fenway Park and says, "I'm Neil Diamond. I'm here. I would like to sing live today. Can you set that up instead of just you guys playing Sweet Caroline like they do in the 8th inning there at Fenway Park every game?" He says, "I'm there. Let me sing." And he did. So that was another great moment that day. So, sports as it is gives people a chance to, forget about the stuff that's going on in the outside world, gets a chance to come together. Hug people around them, shake hands with people, pat people on the back, honor people, and it's just a way for the community to get back together. And when your team wins, it's a way for you to get a little celebration in and say things are good for a day, things are good for 3 hours, whatever it is. So the Red Sox actually, let's just stick with baseball, Bob.
Okay.
Playing very well out of the gate here, which is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
They made a bunch of moves. And they sit atop the AL East at 14-7, looking pretty good, Bob.
I guess it's the Bobby Valentine curse is over, right?
I was a supporter of Bobby Valentine, so I will say that he didn't get much of a fair shake. I still don't think he did, but obviously that did not work out well. And they needed somebody else in there, and they bring back the familiar face, John Farrell, the former pitching coach, who was in their regime under Tito Francona. And he comes back and settles things right down, and everybody suddenly is comfortable again. And I don't know what he's doing with the pitching staff, because Lester and Buchholz really pitching outstanding. Yeah. Lester, we've seen 2 out of his 4 starts. He's gone into the 7th inning, which is a big plus.
Right.
Lester's always been a good pitcher, but he can never get past the 5th inning.
Right.
So, that kills the bullpen. Last night he only went 5 2/3, but they did get the win. But he has gone into the 7th inning a few times now, so that's a good sign. And the other pitchers are pitching pretty well. And the bullpen has overcome the loss of their new closer, Hanrahan.
Yes.
And they're going back to their old closer, Bailey, who didn't get to be the closer much last year because of injury. And now he's fitting in well. And he's picked up, I think, 6 out of 7 saves. And he's looking good. So the bullpen looks pretty good. And I like this lineup, Bob. Yeah. I mean, Napoli, he's got 26 RBIs, 15 extra base hits. Bob, here's your stat of the day.
Okay.
Mike Napoli, 15 extra base hits. That's the most at this point of the season for a Boston Red Sox player since 1916.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive number right there, and he's challenging Manny Ramirez RBI total for the month of April. Manny had 30 in one of his years. I forget which year it was, and Napoli is on pace to maybe pass that. He had a big grand slam the other night in a win. So he is looking good, and he's probably going to even look better now that Poppy is behind him, giving him some protection. And you really got to love what you're seeing out of Shane Victorino. This guy's a gritty player. He's got a little back problem, which is problematic, but he has played well, and he's him and Ellsbury at the top of the lineup are looking good. Ellsbury had a 12-game hitting streak. Pedroia, he's not hitting for power yet, but he reached base safely in the first 20 games of the season. So, you know, with Ellsbury, Victorino, Pedroia, Napoli, Ortiz, all of a sudden things are looking pretty good, and offensively they are playing pretty well, and they're getting other contributions down the lineup. So pitching, timely hitting, turning the batting order over. We talked about this because we were here opening day the first week of the season, and I mentioned, you know, 6 at-bats on opening day for the top of the lineup. And that's what they're doing. They're getting pitchers to work the count. They're turning over that lineup. They're moving things around. So, you know, it's really looking pretty good early in the year for the Red Sox. And the Yankees now actually have fallen into 3rd place.
Yes, with those Orioles being in.
Orioles, the Bucks Birds are flying again back up to 2nd place as they slipped past the Yankees, who were sitting in 2nd place. It was Red Sox Yankees for a little while.
On a note for the Orioles.
What do you got?
Former Danbury Westerner has been signed by the Orioles.
That's right, and we'll be getting into some Westerner stuff as we move along here. As the Westerners Roundup show, which we'll be taping, actually first edition today, but the show itself will start airing in May, and we'll be catching up with all that Westerner stuff. So they did sign one of their former Westerner players there, but the Orioles, Bucks, Birds moving ahead of the Yankees. The Yankees lost, 2 out of 3, shutout last night in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay now sits at 10-11. So the AL East is pretty tight, bunched up a little bit. The Yankees offense, you know, basically they've been getting some nice contributions, but all of a sudden Kevin Youkilis is out. His back is acting up on him, and this is what I think is going to happen with the Yankees. This early, nice little surge they had, Travis Hafner's of the world, Lyle Overbay's of the world, Kevin Youkilis of the world. These guys are not built to last. Vernon Wells of the world. No. I do not see them continuing to produce. They've given them some pop. They've given them a little bit of a life here early on as they're waiting for the guys to come back. You know, as I was coming into the studio today, Derek Jeter was having a press conference. I thought for a second maybe he was going to say he was retiring as he suffered a setback. We can't be so lucky. But he was addressing the media today on his setback. He is not going to be back until well into at least January or July, if not August. There we see Teixeira was taking ground balls recently, so he's trying to get back, but he's still a little ways away, probably a month or so. Granderson will be the first one back, it looks like, the Grandy man, and they'll happily accept him back. Ichiro came up with a big hit for them the other night as they did win one of those games in Tampa, but Ichiro is batting like something under the Mendoza line. Ichiro, what's going on with Suzuki there? Not looking too good. Old man in the sea there. Not looking so good. But they have, you know, the pitching has been good. The games they have won mostly have been low-scoring games. Of course, they've had some of their late-game magic. Francisco Cervelli of the world, he's come through with some pop. And really, Bob, I must say, he is at the top of my list is most annoying Yankees these days. I'm not a big fan of Cervelli there. But they have done well to so far get out of the gate and weather the storm. And it's going to be pitching for them, of course, the legendary Mariano Rivera collecting saves and doing well out of the gate. And Pettit's pitching well, of course. You know, and he pitched well last night, but he had no run support as they lose 3-0. And how about your Mets, Bob, as we move to the National League?
Yeah, the last night was a a super game for the
I am the
Mets.
man right now, Jordani Valdespin.
Yes.
His famous line from last year when he was called up and he got a big hit, and he was interviewed early on in his big league debut there, his early part of his career, and he says, I am the man right now. And last night with the grand slam in extra innings, he was the man last night as they won a big one against the Dodgers. They did not take that emotion into a day game victory today as their bats were pretty silent. It was a 1-1 pitcher's duel into the 8th today against the Dodgers. The Dodgers come up with 2 runs in the top of the 9th. The struggling Ike Davis, once again off to the slow start, did hit a home run in the 9th inning today to make it 3-2, but that's all they could get as they lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, who a lot of people have picked as one of the top teams out there, a favorite in the NL, and they're off to a slow start, but they move to 10-10, I believe. The Dodgers creeping up on 500 at least. They haven't been playing too well. But the Mets looking pretty good, and really it's been the Matt Harvey show, Bob.
Yes.
How about this kid? 4-0. I'm not sure what his ERA is now before last night's game. It was 0.93, 0.93 ERA, which is tops in the league, and the 4-0 start to the season. 29 innings, 32 Ks. He outdueled the Strasburg Express.
First time since 1900.
What's that?
For most wins in the
to start the for a kid like that. I'm not sure what stat you're referring to, but I mean, he's off to a great start and he looks great. So his games have been must-see TV, and they're turning into events there. Everybody's coming out to see Harvey pitch, and it was a big night last week against Strasburg and the Nats, another team that most people have picked, including the Nationals themselves, saying World Series or bust. Hello, you made the playoffs for the first time ever last year, and you put all that pressure on yourself. They are off to a slow start, being swept by the Cardinals, and also losing 2 out of 3, I think it was, to your Mets last weekend, Bob.
How about our catcher for the Mets?
John Buck.
Yes. Last year, I didn't
not
know who
so
he was.
good down there in Miami. Maybe it was something in the water with those Marlins, as they were good. And I've listened to a couple of his interviews. He said he was trying so hard last year. He had the big contract, the big trade to Miami. They had all those big players, and there was a lot of pressure. Everybody thought they were going to do well, but nothing worked out right, and he was overthinking, over-pressurizing himself this year. He's back to just relaxing, going up there, not simplifying things, and just taking it easy and having a good time playing baseball again. And that's what he's doing, and he's off to a great start for the Mets. All right, so we're about 20 minutes into the show already, Bob. So let's talk quickly about some surprises and then shift gears to other things, because there's NBA playoffs, hockey to get to. Let's not forget about that Final Four situation. We mentioned the Orioles already. They're doing pretty well. Kansas City's my team to watch right now. They took a doubleheader against the Red Sox this weekend. They're off to a good start, 10-8. Rangers looking good, and they have made hay against the Angels and their former player there. Hamilton, Angels, another team, again with the big signing, and again struggling, 8-12. The A's looking pretty good. They looked really good out of the start. They've struggled a little bit lately, but Rangers and A's 14-7, 13-9, so the West is a little tight. In the National League, the Braves got off to that 10-1 start, Bob. 15-6 right now, 5-5 in their last 5. So we'll see if they cooled off and cool off fast. Nats, we mentioned 10-12, not good. The Cardinals, the Red Birds, this team just wins, Bob. That's all there is to it.
Well, they're
14-8, St. Louis. I mean, unbelievable. This team knows how to win. St. Louis, they have that pedigree. The Reds looking good too. Big Red Machine, 14-9. Brewers pretty well, 11-8. Pirates have won 12 out of 16, Bob. They're suddenly 12-9. And the Rockies, that was another thing the Mets had to deal with, the cold weather. Blizzards out there in Colorado. Tried to get, they got 3 of those 4 games. And also Minnesota as well. Weather situation this April has been horrible for baseball. But the Rockies, 14-7. Out west, the Giants, the defending champs. Nobody talks about them. Hey, they won 2 out of the last 3 World Series, Bob. 13-10. Diamondbacks, the snake machine out there, they are looking good as well, 13-9. All right, let's just touch fast. Final four, it was Master P, Rick Pitino, getting the first time ever a coach wins 2 NCAA championships with 2 different teams.
Right.
Of course, he did it with Kentucky in the mid-90s. He stays in-state, gets Louisville their first championship since the late never nervous, always in service Purvis Ellis days. 87 Louisville Cardinal was the last time it was that they won. They won 2. Denny Crum did in the 80s. There with Louisville. So, and it was really a classic against Michigan, the former Fab Fivers, the young guns there with some of the young kids. Really a great game. Michigan had a great start to the first half. Louisville closed the half big time to get right within a point, I think it was. And then second half was just a thrilling affair. So it was a great game, great end to the tournament, which a lot of people said wasn't that great. I don't know. I thought there was some good action. I think people came down hard on college a little bit too much. I thought there were some pretty good moments there.
It was a classic. How far off were you from your bracket?
Well, I had Louisville as the champion. After the first 2 days, I was in first place. I quickly dropped to about 50th place after the first weekend. I slowly creeped back up and up on the strength of Louisville. I finished 13th in the league, so I had a little redemption. It was not a complete embarrassment, but it wasn't great either. And then how about this? On the ladies' side, Bob,
yes.
The Louisville women were trying to do what the Husky men and women did in 2004, which would be the only team ever to have both men and women champions, and they were going to have to do it against the Lady Huskies.
Yes.
Guess what? That was not going to happen. I would have bet everything I had. If I was a gambling man, Bob.
Was almost a blowout completely.
Well, this is the thing, Bob. Baylor and Notre Dame in the last couple of years have been the only teams that can beat UConn.
Yeah.
Baylor went down in the Sweet 16 to Louisville. Notre Dame, of course, had to play the Lady Huskies in the Final Four there. And once Connecticut was able to get past them, they've been snake bitten by them. They had lost 7-8. They lost the Big East Championship, regular season, final game to Notre Dame. Notre Dame had their number, but they could not beat them in the Final Four, so it was never going to happen for Louisville. The Lady Huskies now a perfect 8 for 8 in the finals, Bob. Unbelievable. Great job by them. They bring the trophy back to Connecticut for the 8th time, so hats off to them. And then the Frozen Four hockey, Bob, turned into an all-Connecticut affair. How about that? Quinnipiac had to beat Yale for a 4th time to get the Frozen Four championship. They could not do that. Yale got a fluky goal with 3 seconds left in the second period for a 1-0 lead. They got another fluky goal early on in the third period, and that was basically it as they cruised to victory in the final. Tough end to Quinnipiac's unbelievable season, but Yale, hats off to them. They snuck into the tournament there, and then they got it done. All right, Bob, we don't have much time, 5 minutes.
So we got
NBA action. As far as the Celtics are concerned, not so fantastic.
Yeah, what is wrong with the Celtics?
Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. They have scored a total of, 48 points in the second half combined of 2 games?
Yeah.
The first 2 games against Brick City? This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. They were winning in the first half of Game 1, winning after the third quarter in Game 1, and they scored a total of 8 points in the fourth quarter. Meltdown, and then they bounced back, had a great first half, even though Garnett, the big ticket, was in big foul trouble in the first half against the Knicks in the second game, and then they completely collapsed in the third quarter. Just a disgraceful performance. I do not think going back to Boston on Friday night is going to do much help, although they'll get a lift from the crowd. I just don't think they have it right now. Doc Rivers has no idea what he wants to do with the rotation. They have no point guard at all. I think he should be playing Courtney Lee. Courtney Lee didn't even come into the game until the game was out of reach, 4 minutes left. He's the only guy who could actually possibly be a point guard. Doc Rivers, play him. What are you doing? Unbelievable. They need a point guard on the floor. Melo, of course, who won the NBA scoring title, beat out Kevin Durant. He's averaging 30-something a game here in the first 2 games, getting contributions. But really, I mean, the Knicks, come on. 85 points in Game 1, 87 in Game 2. That's not going to do it as they get moving. Next week, I will quote Derek Coleman when we come in here, and they have beaten the Celtics, and they have moved on for the first time. It'll be probably since 2000. Their 13 years has been since they won a postseason tournament series. I will quote Derek Coleman then, and I'll say it now: whoop-de-damn-do. Go do something else like win a title. All right, around the other league here in the NBA, Nets at Chicago tonight, Bob. The Bulls with a gritty, gutty performance from Joakim Noah, who's playing on 1 foot, and they got back after getting blown out in Game 1 in Brooklyn. It was a good scene there in the first 2 games in Brooklyn, looking good, but they did not come up with the goods in Game 2. So that series 1-1. The only other series that is 1-1, Golden State evened up their tilt with Denver. Denver had not lost a home game since January, Bob. They do not lose out there in Mile High City, Denver, and they lost. Golden State, Mark Jackson's boys, Stephen Curry leading the way, scored 131 points in Game 2, Bob. So that series is exciting. The other series not looking so good. The Pacers up 2-0 on the Hawks, nothing doing there. Heat 2-0 on Milwaukee, nothing doing there. Spurs taking care of those fakers who did get to the final game of the season to get into the playoffs, but they had to do it without Shelby Defiant, who is, according to him, I would say, really has disgraced himself with this whole Twitter, Facebook thing. He's acting like he's the only player ever who has suffered a serious injury with the Achilles tendon. Woe is me, crying on Facebook, just ridiculous. And then tweeting during the game, basically bashing his team and his coach. Ridiculous job by him, but the Spurs are handling them 2-0. Clippers up 2-0 on Memphis. I wouldn't say that series is over, but it doesn't look good for Memphis. And the Thunder had a big, had to hold back their former teammate there, Harden, who scored 36 in OKC last night. So the Thunder up 2-0, and Jeremy Lin was hurt in the second half of that game. So that wasn't good. We didn't get to the Masters.
We had some nice.
Yeah, we didn't get to hockey as we were running out of time. But it looks good for your Rangers. Yeah. And how about this, Bob? The Islanders have clinched a playoff spot. They are back in the playoffs, the New York Islanders. So that is good news. We'll see who they play next week. Those playoffs will be getting underway. So we'll get more hockey then. The Bruins right now are tied with the Canadiens for the 2nd seed. So that's a toss-up with 2 games to go. We'll see if they finish 2nd or if they finish 4th. The Capitals clinched that 3rd seed. They're in there as they won their division.
Okay.
So that is pretty good. And we'll see if your Rangers actually do hold on to that 8th seed or maybe move up. So we could be looking at either the Bruins versus the Islanders or the Bruins versus the Rangers. If they fall to the 4th spot, they will probably avoid either one of those 2 teams. But if they sit at the 2, they could get the Islanders or the Rangers in round 1, which would be exciting. And how about the Devils after last year making a run to the Stanley Cup Finals? They are out. They're gone, Bob. They will not be making a run to the finals. So I believe that is it. We have run out of time. We will see you next week as we are back live again. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you then. Happy viewing.